GM. Welcome to Takeoff Tuesday. Yeah, buddy. Send a quick reminder text to a couple teammates who you know need to be here today. There's no better person I know to give you a positive rant in the morning than Mr. Bill Predebon. You don't want to miss it. Glad you're here. There's some team members who might miss it, so send them a friendly reminder. Also, if you have new students who are not getting my reminder texts and emails about different events, trainings, opportunities to take advantage of, then let me know. I'll show you how to sign them up so that the system can keep them in the loop. Awesome. Well, let's start this party. We got 58 days until our event, 57. Holy moly. It's exciting times. Already kind of planning out what we're going to do. It looks like we're going to go 2 days early so we can go make some friends, get some more last minute guests there. And yeah, and staying after too. The thing about staying after for me is that those follow-ups that you do within the first 48 hours are the big money makers. So we in the event on a Saturday, quite likely we'll have already put in a boatload of orders, but there'll be a few more people who want a minute or a day to think about it. But Bob is going to put a deadline on some things. So anyway, it's going to be fantastic. G to the M. There we go. There we go. Okay, so just making sure we got things running at full blast here. Yep, it's working. But we got to be on Do Not Disturb. Okay, here we are. Got our Helios back office quote of the day. Why should society feel responsible only for the education of children and not for the education of all adults at every age? All right, Eric Fromm. What a great way to be responsible. Education is, like we've always talked about, a lifelong process. And to say you're done at 18 or 22 or whatever, well, we know what kind of life you're going to have if that's your approach. And the answer is a small life. You need to continue to educate yourself and those around you. Help them do the best they can. Hey, we got an update to the top 10. Big shout out to our team members out there who are helping see, I look at this as like the new life passport issuers. These are the people who help our new students get a new life and be able to see new things across their experience here. So we got Mitch Amalian in number 1. We got Chris number 2, Alinda Rowley Jensen in number 3, Cade coming in number 4, Amanda Carmichael coming in at number 5, Richard Stock number 6. We got Benjamin Creelman in the number 7 spot, Mary Ansetta in number 8, Jonathan Gomez in the number 9 spot, and number 10 is Leslie Wan coming out of the Washington team. Well done. I've seen a big uptick in the Pacific Northwest in the last 30 days or so from team members, students, deals. Inside the Investor Secret Network, we also have a space for all of our Pacific Northwest team members and how they share deals, share ideas, support each other. It's awesome. It is growing and taking advantage of it. It's a great thing. All right, GM, everybody. Awesome. Let's get in the habit of this. Building up self-confidence. If you don't have this memorized yet, let me help you. Self-confidence formula. First, I know I have the ability to achieve the object of my definite chief aim in life. Therefore, I demand of myself persistent, continuous action towards its attainment, and I here now promise to render such action. Second, I understand that the dominating thoughts of my mind will eventually reproduce themselves in outward physical action and gradually transform themselves into physical reality. Therefore, I will concentrate my thoughts for 30 minutes daily upon the task of thinking of the person I intend to become, thereby creating in my mind a clear mental picture of that person. Third, I know through the principle of autosuggestion, any desire that I persistently hold in my mind will eventually seek expression through some practical means of attaining the object or position I desire. Therefore, I will devote 10 minutes daily to demanding of myself the development of self-confidence. Fourth, I've clearly written down a description of my definite chief aim, and I will always work until I develop sufficient self-confidence for its attainment. Fifth, I fully realize that wealth or position can long endure when built upon truth and justice. I will only engage in transactions that will benefit all whom it affects. I will succeed by attracting to myself the forces I wish to use and the cooperation of other people. I will induce others to serve me because of my willingness to serve them. I've eliminated hatred, envy, jealousy, selfishness, and cynicism, and I've developed a love for all humanity, for I know that a positive attitude will always bring me success. I will cause others to believe in me because I believe in them and in myself. I will assign my name to this formula, commit it to memory, repeat it aloud once a day with full faith. It will gradually influence my thoughts and actions, so I will become a self-reliant and successful person. GM to that. You know, the repeated aloud part, when I first found this, was kind of made me feel a little funny, right? I found the book, I found the stuff, and then I started doing it. It's just me and Vanessa in the house, and she never heard me talking to myself. And now here I am saying these mantras and these different things with full faith, energy, put your body into it. It felt funny. But if you don't do it, you're not going to influence yourself to the same degree. So do it. Okay, initiative and leadership. Having chosen a definite chief aim as my life work, I now understand it is my duty to transform this purpose into reality. Therefore, I will form the habit of taking on some definite action each day that will carry me one step nearer the attainment of my definite chief aim. I know that procrastination is a deadly enemy of all who would become leaders in any undertaking, and I will eliminate this habit from my makeup by A, doing some one definite thing each day that ought to be done without anyone telling me to do it. It's a banger right there. B, looking around until I find at least one thing that I can do each day that I have not been able or not in the habit of doing, and that will be of value to others without expectation of pay. C, telling at least one person or my entire team each day of the value of practicing this habit of doing something that ought to be done without being told to do it. I can see that the muscles of the body become strong in proportion to the extent to which they are used. Therefore, I understand that the habit of initiative also becomes fixed in proportion to the extent that it is practiced. I realize that the place to begin developing the habit of initiative is in the small, commonplace things connected to my daily work. Therefore, I will go at my work each day as if I'm doing it solely for the purpose of developing this necessary habit of initiative. I understand that by practicing this habit and taking on the initiative in connection with my daily work, that I will not only be developing the habit, but I will also be attracting the attention of those who will place greater value on my services as a result of this practice. GM. 5 minutes a day can set you apart from the normies. And sometimes all it is just repeating a quality, well-designed, scientifically backed mantra. You gotta ask yourself, you're not doing no mantras, what are you doing? Gotta do some self-hypnosis. Awesome. Okay, well, GM to Diedrich, sorry. Good to see you. It's been a while. JL, as always, a pleasure. Heidi and Owner, welcome Owner's iPhone. Tamara and Corey, Emily, GM, Vivian and Jasmine, Bill, Doug, Steve, It's no party without Steve. GM to you too. Awesome. Well, let's get into it. Mr. Takeoff Tuesday is here, so let's do this. And for those of you who are new or catching the recording, let me introduce you to our trainer. His name is Mr. Bill Predebon. And what I started out the call with is I think there's no better person to go on a rant that could help you see something than Mr. Bill Predebon. Inside of Renatus, I've always kind of joked around that he is the most aggressive, nice person I know. he, he is seriously one of the kindest people, always looking out for the small guy and considering other perspectives, but at the same time, he doesn't take crap from anybody. Not a city planner or a general contractor or an insurance agent, even the IRS. This guy's incredible, a wealth of knowledge, and he had to basically start over. So one reason why we love Renatus is because it gives everybody the possibility to redesign their life. I mean, in fact, that's kind of what Renatus stands for, right? Rebirth, renew, redo. And he got that here. He started doing short sales and became very profitable in his first year, closing over a dozen deals, and has not slowed down since. He's done over 250 real estate deals, all different types: fix and flips, wholesaling, short sales, lease options, seller finance notes, auctions, short-term rentals, long-term rentals, land development, subdivisions, raising private capital. Incredible stuff. And that knowledge has put him in a position to where now he's one of the newest Renatus instructors and has built a class called From the Ground Up. If you haven't checked it out, jump in there and see what it's like to streamline a construction project while being extremely profitable. So anyway, we're happy to have him here. Let's give a big warm welcome to the man of the hour, Mr. Bill Predebon, GM.
What's happening?
Just loving life. Great to see you.
Great to see you, Mike. That's awesome, buddy.
Yeah. So we
Thanks
got a
for
takeoff Tuesday here. I kind of planted the seed with a little bit of some tax and legal. I've had some people go about asking people for money in a way that is kind of giving me some red flags. People just trying to go out on the internet and just post deals like crazy. And for two reasons, I think we should go on a little exploration of this idea. One about the right way to raise capital, but then also like putting the address of the property up without a contract or just publicly displaying these addresses of these deals you haven't completed yet, and kind of your thoughts and what you would tell your students who you might find doing this weird behavior. So yeah, what are your thoughts? What are your takes? What do you want to tell the folks?
Well, I love to say good morning and welcome. And Michael, thanks for the intro. Folks, I cannot tell you how lucky we are to have Michael putting this together for us, paying money to have a system that allows us to meet every morning with three incredible folks along, leading the call each day between myself, Michael, and Dane, and then of course a bunch of incredible folks to be on here to mastermind with. So, you guys all know Michael's history, and if you don't, he's been with the company since day one and just done some amazing things, both on the real estate side, but one of the top two team builders in the country, literally. Um,
Yeah.
just really amazing numbers. He's cleared the $4 million mark in his gross sales and commissions paid out by the Renatus company to Michael and his wife. So we're pretty blessed, to be honest, and it's an honor to be introduced by you. So thanks. I love these topics. I'm excited. Anybody got questions, thoughts, comments can jump in. You don't have to raise your hand. You can come off mute, interrupt me, whatever you want to do. I am, whatever I say, I would definitely, I don't know, check with an attorney, use AI or whatever you want to do and try to find out the truth. I think most of the time I see posts with people looking for money. It's typically ignorance that drives it. They're just not aware that it's risky. Um, I can say this. First of all, if everything goes well, there's nothing to worry about. You can pretty much cross any gray line you want, and no one's going to sue you. No one's going to complain to anybody. No one's going to complain to the company. No one's going to complain to the attorney general or attorney or of any kind for that matter because they got paid. So if you raise money illegally and you win, no harm, no foul, I guess. Um, truthfully, my knowledge is that when it comes to the SEC, there's a reason that people have a license, right? Uh, People lose money, they get scammed, so on and so forth. So at some point, government stepped in along the way and said, we got to license people that are going to be brokering people's money, that are going to be telling people to invest in certain things. And, they need to know that there's risk. There needs to be, they need to know where their money is. They need to know what it's making, what it's losing. They need to have, statements sent out and all of these things. So it's regulated, right? It's a Reg D, right? Um, and there's different series of licenses for different types of raising funds, and you have to have that. And then you have to work under a broker, just like a real estate agent, right? Anybody with real estate knowledge has more knowledge than the average individual, and real estate is another one of those things where people get taken advantage of. And back in the day, it didn't matter, but as time went on and the population grew, and more, theft and dishonesty was out there, they decided to regulate it. So uh, there is buyer beware, there is lender beware and stuff like that. But typically that's within word of mouth. And that's where it's legal, right? But I don't believe that Facebook or any social media, those friends are not your acquaintances. Uh, if you have a friend of a friend that you've never met and something goes bad and enough people complain, if you did it more than once and you lost someone's money or you just took their money or you just misappropriated it or whatever, things like that happen, not even on purpose. Those of us with little experience, I mean, I can't tell you the times that I have sent more than I should have to a contractor, right? Who's not used to having 10, 20, 30, $50,000 come into your account, right? When you have three, four, 5,000, 3, 400 all the time, and you're scraping every week to, pay for a tool, you lose a tool, you get a job, you get paid, you wait. As soon as you're done, you're calling the guy for the money, so on and so forth. Same with people in real estate. You know what I mean? You've never bought a house in your entire life, and all of a sudden you're borrowing 100 grand, and it comes into your account. I mean, human nature does not allow for you to, there's no training on what to do with the money. So people don't intentionally do it, but you can justify borrowing 5 grand to pay a bill because you're going to pay it back with the profit you're going to make. I mean, all of these things occur. It's just the way it is. Um, and, uh, and so when it comes to lending money, buyer beware, lender beware. Yeah, you're lending money to someone someone who was introduced to you, and then you meet that person and you get them to lend your money. All rules are off the table. All laws are off the table. You can do whatever you want. But when you're soliciting funds, especially with rates of return, right, and you're putting it out there, you're crossing a line. They are crossing a line on what now? A caveat to that is, for the most part, when you borrow funds and you do secure the money in a position with real estate, you kind of protect yourself, right? If you do it properly, if you put them in an equitable position and there's no fraud, there's no gray area with the funds, and you lose money and you're like, well, they agreed. I wrote them a promissory note. I wrote a deed of trust. It was recorded, and so on and so forth. And you borrowed money through some sort of solicitation, and someone called you and said, I'm interested in lending you the money. That's one thing. You might be okay. Again, you'd want to check with an attorney and an expert and a licensed professional. But on the other side of the coin too, I don't know if there's another side of the coin. On I have seen posts where there are sophisticated individuals specifically raising money, and perhaps when someone is seasoned, um, you know, uh, when someone is specific and they're following a lot of rules, there's a possibility. Here's the other thing. Like, when I've seen it done, I know the people sometimes that are doing it, right? And and I know that they're collectible, right? And if someone's collectible or can go to the end of the closing table and have a loss and they can pay the loss, nobody's going to care, right? There's nobody's going to complain if at the end of the day they lose money from someone they never met that they solicited money for, they broke the law, right? But they work it out where they can pay them back, they can get them on a payment plan, they can do another deal, they have money to give them, they separate, they share the loss, whatever agreement they can come. Again, there's no harm, no foul, right? Now, the other part of that is if you look back at the crash, I will tell you that there are forces in place, there are agencies in place, there are people looking for people doing what we're doing, right? And it never used to be that way. I don't think that was ever a thing. There wasn't resources for it. There was truly no need for it other than I believe more in the brokering space, in the investment space, but not in the real estate space. And there were people wholesaling string lines without contracts, totally a felony, right? There's a reason when you're a licensed real estate agent, by law, nobody in the country in any state can represent another person's house and even mention the sale price without having a license or or equitable position in the property. That's the law. It's a class 3 felony. If I'm like, hey, Michael's selling his house, bro, you should buy it. It's 150 grand. And I'm trying to sell the house, especially if I'm going to get paid a fee in the middle and I don't have equitable stake, I can't do it. I can refer them to Michael and Michael's agent or himself or his wife could sell their house, right, for sale by owner. But I can't say the price. Now, if it's word of mouth, again, how do they prove that in court? None of that happens. But when you start sending out emails, text messages, and things like that, you're like, hey, my buddy's got a property under contract, you know, um, it's 150 grand, and you mark it up a grand, it's 151,000, and you get paid $1,000, and all of a sudden the market crashes, and time after time after time, people are complaining to the attorney general, like in 2007, and then they go back and they start looking at Facebook and all of these people that were wholesaling, daisy chaining, all these things. Those people in Arizona, California, Florida, they're in jail. They were task force put together to find these people that were daisy changing, and everybody's making 5, 10, 15, 20 grand all the way down the road. So you got $100,000 in wholesale sale fees to some guy who pays above retail because the market was going up by 40% a day. And at the end of the day, he couldn't sell it or she couldn't sell the house, or they're stuck in the house. They're upside down. They leveraged the house. They got to refinance. They bought the house and lived in it, whatever the case is. And the loan goes into default and the lender starts looking back and follows a trail because the lender's out, right? Whoever it was sold to, the bank, all of those people, that's who put the regulation in. They don't want to pay for all those losses. They started putting a task force in place. There's a far cry from those people to what we're talking about today. You got a deal and you're looking for it and you want to, raise money. My suggestion is to overcome this solicitation of funds from people you don't know is to start texting people, right? Have AI put you up a nice text or learn yourself, honestly, and text something genuine from the heart. This is what I'm looking for. This is what I'm offering. This is how I'm going to secure it. This is how I'm going to repay it. This is what you're going to get paid. This is the risk. This is the possibility of opportunity. You present it very nicely and you send it to everybody you know and everybody you're associated with, business people, whoever you want that are in your phone, and you're sending them a direct message. And at the end, you say, listen, if it's not you, maybe you know somebody, and perhaps I can compensate you for selling, for giving me a lead, right? And you do it that way. And then it's word of mouth and you're getting it around and someone brings you someone and you are introduced to them and you avoid all those problems, right? Of just blanket solicitation. You cannot, if you can't, back in the day, it was newspapers, it was magazines and things like business magazines, journals, and that sort of stuff. And people used to place ads in the back of the magazines. I got this opportunity, right? You can't do that. That's not the way it works unless you're licensed, or unless you're using a licensed broker, or you have a syndication, right? Or you have some sort of regulation that you're operating under for the solicitation of those funds. I think generally we do it because we're ignorant or we're lazy, and it could be a combination of both. Um, and raising capital shouldn't be a lazy job. It should be one of the most important jobs you do. Um, you know, and you want to take it serious, and you can benefit from it tremendously. Um, I would work on getting good at it and being serious about it. And I go at it from a point where, you know, there's a reason people lend money, and partner with money. Number one is they're lazy in a way, right? Or ignorant, or a little bit of both, right? Because they're not willing to learn how to do it themselves, right? They haven't taken the time. They're busy with their life. And so they are not making a return that can be offered by us as investors, right? When you can offer 8, 10, 12, 15% return secured by real estate on deals, it's appealing, right? So you want to make the opportunity appealing. You want to be strong. You want to come from a place of, confidence that, you know, they can't get this anywhere else, right? Whatever it is that you're offering, if you're serious and you're genuine and you've done your research, and hopefully you're not flying by the seat of your pants. You've done some studying of your education. You're working with a mentor, whatever the case is, and you're able to come up with a pretty good deal, and and then you can present it that way. There's a reason that we go with a 401k and an IRA, and we not only do we have to go with licensed people, right? We can now go online and broker ourselves, right? We can go to an app and invest and buy stock ourselves. But there's a reason most of us don't do it. If we do, we dip a foot, right? We're not serious traders. We're not day traders. We're not short in the market, right? There's few and far between people that actually pay for education. They learn how to do it, and so on. And even then, it takes a special talent. And I'll tell you, it takes time. And you're getting up at 6 in the morning on the East Coast side, so you can, beat the market in the morning. And you only work till 8 or 10 in the morning. But most of us don't do that. Most of us have a job and so on and so forth. The 99%, 97% of America. And so we are ignorant to how to make our money work for us. So we rely on someone else to do it. And that's why we pay people. That's why brokers are paid such great money, right? Because they are an expert, and they have an opinion, and they study the market, and they get all the knowledge, and then they offer people an opportunity. And if people don't put their money there, what is their choice? Put it under their mattress, put it in a savings account, put it in a CD, the easy, simple things that anybody can do. Make sense? Yep. Anybody? Thoughts, comments, questions? Questions on raising capital? Good to see some folks here. It's awesome.
Yeah, Bill, I have a question.
Uh-huh.
So I've gotten decent at raising capital, but like how do your conversations go? I could there's definitely room for improvement. So like if I'm preparing for deals, but I don't have deals at this moment, um, but I know, I have some stuff coming. Like how does that conversation go typically with someone?
So that's a great phone call. Um, and you and I have actually talked about this, I think, but number one is you want to prepare yourself with a capital raise opportunity, right? So you want to be offering, you want to know what your offer is. You want to know how long you're going to have the money. You want to know how you're going to pay the money back. You want to know what the profit time frame is going to be. You want to know what the backup plan is going to be, right? What your exit strategies are. And if those exit strategies don't work out, what is going to be the next step, right? You want to know how much money you need. You want to know those types of things,
But
right?
how do you know that stuff if you don't have a deal right now? Like, but you're preparing for the deals. But do you just give like what I've been doing is giving examples of some of my past deals, but I don't know exactly what the numbers are going to be moving forward if I don't have the deal yet.
Well, you can use ranges, 12 to
Yeah.
18 months, 4 to 6 months, typical for a flip, you know, 3 to 4 months if it's a lipstick job. Generally speaking, your price range of the houses you're looking for. But most importantly is what questions you ask them, right? We control conversations through questions. So, in addition to knowing what you know, the reason you want to know your information is people may have questions, right? And when you start to answer the questions, you want to have backup, but you want to control the conversation through questions. So on the flip side of that is that you are going to ask them, number one, do you have the time, qualify for the time? I've got an opportunity. If the right opportunity were coming along, and it was in real estate for you to make a good return on your investment, would you be open to that? Yeah, I'm open to that. Okay, great. Let me ask you this. How soon would your funds be available? Right? How quickly would you want to move? Like next week, next month, or a year from now? You know what I mean? Okay, so you want to move fairly quickly in the next couple months. Okay, so let me ask you, where are the funds coming from? Is it like a HELOC? Is it an IRA? Do you have to take the money out? Are you going to sell some stock? Where's your money coming from? And you don't have to be specific, but if you have, just so I know, I'm very familiar with, how long it takes to acquire the funds. Like if something comes up pretty quickly, which it does in real estate, sometimes I put stuff under contract. I got to close in 7 days. So I'm just curious to know what kind of time frame you're looking for. Okay, great. Um, Next, how much money are you talking about? I mean, are you interested in lending 10 grand and partnering with some other people? I'd have, if you only have 10 or 20,000, obviously I can't do a full deal, or are you looking to put 50 grand in, 100 grand, 200 grand? How much are you looking to lend? Right? And then you find that out, right? Okay, great. That's fantastic. Let me ask you one more question or so. Uh, As far as your interest rate and or your return, I mean, are you familiar with, have you ever looked at what on average you get in your stock market, in your IRA, in your 401k? Do you know how much, your HELOC costs? Um, do you know what you're getting in your savings account or CD? You know what I mean? That type of thing. What are you accustomed to? Oh, 6%. Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's about normal. I mean, like sometimes you can find a really good CD for 5% or something like that, I see. Or, the average stock market might be 6 to 8% over a good number of years. Sometimes you can get up to 7%, 17%. We've got a little bit of a bull market going on now. That sounds great. But on average, you're thinking like 8%, right? Okay, good. So let me ask you this. What would you want to make? You know what I mean? If you could, really, and this isn't a risky behavior necessarily. This is a pretty solid, secure investment. It's short term or long term, depending on what you're doing. We're going to hold this house for 5 years. We're going to get some appreciation, some rent returns, that sort of thing. What type of return would you expect or would you like to receive? Oh, 15%. Okay. Yeah, no, we can work with that. I offer, depending on the deal, I can possibly get, that's pretty high. It's not common, but it's possible. Let me look at what I can do when the deal comes up, but I can definitely make that work. So now we're having them answer all the questions. We're letting them. So let me get this straight. And you're going to recap, right? Um, if I'm correct, you want to put 100 grand in, you're looking to make 12 to 15%. You're able to put this money to work in the next 2 to 4 weeks. You're going to get a HELOC on your house. So I suggest obviously that you go to the banks today and start that process because it's going to take 2 to 4 weeks to get that HELOC approved and have access to those funds. So with that said, you're looking to put this work, but you want to do a short-term deal. You want to do a deal that's somewhere between 3 to 9 months. Is that right? You prefer to just turn it over? Okay, all right, sounds good. And you're cool with the fact that it's going to be a company guarantee with secured by the real estate. All right, great. No, it sounds good. I've got some things in the works, and I think by the time you get your HELOC, I'm going to have something ready for you, and we'll be able to move forward. Do you care if I contact you in like 2 weeks just to check in and see how things are going? Because that way we're on the same page. I've got a few other people that I'm making some investment opportunity calls to, and I want to make sure that I'm in order of who gets the opportunity first. You know what I'm saying? And that's the type of conversation, Tamara, I would have.
Yeah, that
Uh,
was awesome.
yep, yep. That's a good question. But again, it's I'm confident that and I'm speaking from knowledge and experience, and you'd want to have, Michael does a lot of research, spends most of the time off the TV and in a book or some sort of podcast or some sort of online education. And so he's familiar with numbers, right? And it's important to be kind of familiar with numbers. If you're raising capital, there's a reason that these folks that you go to and you sit down in Ameriprise or, you know, TW Kraft and all these TIA Kraft and all these people, right? And you sit down with them, they study numbers all day long. They have some knowledge, they have some experience, if you will, even, or other people's experience of what the market's doing, what money costs and what money pays and things like that. So So it's nice that you have some experience in real estate. If not, just kind of study it. Hey, what's the market been doing lately? Just ask AI a bunch of questions and get familiar. Now, you don't have to be too educated because we want to keep it simple. We don't want to confuse anybody that's lending us money. I mean, it's boom, boom, boom. You're in second position. You're getting a 10% return. I'm going to defer all the interest payments. At the end of the day, in 6 months, you're going to get paid. When I sell the house, that's how you're going to get paid back. You know what I mean? Sometimes it takes 3 extra months to sell. Sometimes I go over budget. Sometimes it takes more time to fix it. Sometimes I have to fix things I didn't expect. So I'm going to do a 9-month contract, right? With a 3-month extension. Okay. You know what I mean? And that's when you're maybe on your second call and you're about ready to raise the money.
Yeah, one thing that helped me was repositioning the importance of money in my mind.
100%.
Growing up being poor, I always made money so important. But now the deal is what's important. Any Tom, Dick, and Harry can have some money, but you have the deal. Napoleon Hill wrote that too about the difference between capital and labor. And too many people think the capital is more important than the labor, but without the labor, the capital is pointless and useless.
So
yeah.
I can't agree with you more, Michael. What a great point, you guys. Nobody wants to do the work to make their money work. They want their money to work because they're already working for their money. Does that make sense? That's just what's going on. So no one wants to flip the house. No one wants to study the education. Nobody wants to learn how to be a day trader. It's too hard and takes too much time. And it takes discipline. It takes sacrificing the rest of the things during the day that they want to do, right? Makes sense of that. So number one, labor, right? Number two, knowledge. And not in that order. But people don't want to learn. They don't know it. If they knew it, they would make their money work for them. People don't want to pay for education because they don't think they're going to study the education. And then if they did study the education, they have to put their own money to work. They would rather pay you to put the money to work. Right? And you get paid 90% of the deal and they get 10% of the deal because you have the knowledge and you're putting together the labor, whether it's yours or somebody else's. And you have to have the exit strategy, right? And the exit strategy is valuable. If someone brings me the buyer, that's valuable to me, right? That has value. If I'm the one listing the house, I'm bringing the agent, I'm doing all the closing arguments, I'm doing all the negotiation on the sales side, and I'm acquiring the property and I'm running the project, right off the bat, I'm at 80% of the deal. You bring me all of the money, even without the freaking hard money, you're getting 20% if you and I were partnering, right? Plus or minus. It's always negotiable for everybody, right? And depending on how valuable the money is to me for that particular deal or how much I'm going to make on the deal, I can raise the price, right? But the money is valuable, but it's no more valuable than any of the other 4 elements of the deal. So Mike, that's great that you are right. Once you make that shift and then you go into the conversation with 100% confidence in the fact that you're bringing in, it's the same thing we have to overcome when we're selling Renatus. We have to realize that they're paying for it, but we're giving them a product they can't find anywhere else, an opportunity they've never heard of before, a chance at things that they only dream of. It's the same thing with Renatus, but instead we think 25 grand is a ton of money. We think it's a lot of and for most people that we're talking to, it is because that's their mindset. For Michael and I, 25 grand is like $25. I don't mean that disrespectfully, but when I'm raising $25,000, that's spent before I even get the wire into my account, right? It is literally very little money when I'm dealing with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars and millions of dollars, right? It's a fraction of what is needed. Um, so yeah.
Another question. So sorry. Say someone wants to come in like with funding, like I have, like I'll use this the situation I'm in now. I have this deal. I'm undecided at the moment if I want to actually move forward with it, but if I do, I'm going to need a funding partner. So I have people that want to come in and partner with me, but I'm not going to just partner with people. I have not had I would, is there a way to, like, I just don't want to be an equity partner with a lot of people, unless I have to be. But like, when you say you partner with people, like, can you partner with someone and they like, I don't know. I'm just not clear on, like,
Everybody I partner with, when I say partner, they are literally an equity partner. Therefore, we're going to split profits and split losses. Okay. So what that means is they're not a
and
lender.
that's on your flips or any deals.
Yeah, it's on anything. It
Okay.
could be on a business. It could be on anything. So there's a difference between lending money and partnering with money. If you're going to be an equity partner, so you're creating, you're raising, like, for example, if you're buying a 50 unit apartment building that's costing you $5 million, right? And you have debt. Debt is traditional, conventional debt. There's debt and there's equity, right? So debt is simple to find. Anybody can get debt because it's asset-based debt. It, depending on your credit, depending on your experience, depending on your partners, depending on a few factors, depending on the city, A, B, or C property, all of these things, the amount of work, the amount of time, the amount of money, you're going to get between 65 and 80% of the acquisition and fix up costs in debt. It's simple. People will lend you that money all day long. There's institutions and there are private funders and there are hard money lenders, soft money lenders all over the country that are going to lend that money. That's the debt. Equity is your second position money, your carrying cost money, your fix up money, your gap money, whatever you want to call it. All of these things, right? It's a riskier position, right? If they have to foreclose, then they have to take out the 3 million, the 5 million, the guy in first position. You can't foreclose and get your money back. You got to foreclose. And then if no one buys it, you have to come up with the money at the end of the day, pay off the first at the foreclosure date, and then you own the property with someone else's debt on it, right? You had to get someone else's debt because you don't have, now you have an opportunity to get back your money by selling the asset. So an equity partner can be 5%, 10%, 20%, 50% of the project, right? But an equity partner can be a limited equity partner, an LP, which they're a limited partner. All they're doing is giving you the money. They have no say, they have no rights, they have no voting, they have nothing. They can follow you, ask you questions, do whatever you want, but you can set it up however you want. And so my equity partners have no say in anything. They can give me their opinion, they can come to the project, they can offer advice, they can do whatever they want, but at the end of the day, CSI is going to make the decisions. At the end of the day, CSI is going to raise money. Now, with an equity partner, just like in any business, if there are funds needed and we are underfunded, then equally we've got to be able to put in money. So if they're getting 20% and I'm getting 80% and we need 100 grand, I'm going to have to come up with 80 and they're going to have to come up with 20 grand. If they not, then we're going to have a problem, which I put in my contracts. Like, listen, if I have to raise any extra money, I'm going to raise it at this percentage. If I put in money myself, I'm going to pay myself for my money. I'm letting them know because they're getting their percentage by bringing the money. I don't care if they borrow it from their mom and they bring the money in. They're going to have a contract with their mom and their mom's going to give them the money and I'm going to have a contract with them. So they may be using arbitrage, if you will, by borrowing someone else's money to lend me the money that they borrowed so they can get a percentage of my deal. I don't care where their money comes from. I'm not even going to ask them, right? Because they're paying that back. I'm not paying back whatever interest they borrowed the money at. So if they borrow from their HELOC, they're paying their HELOC back. I'm not paying their HELOC. I'm paying them and then they pay their HELOC and then they get the net profit from that. So an equity partner is going to be someone who puts in money and it buys them a piece of equity, right? And I'm never going to give up more than 35% of the deal. Most of the time it's 25% of the deal, plus or minus, right? And because the money doesn't have that much value. Unless they're an agent, they find me the deal and they're going to list it for me for 1% and they know what they're doing and they're a good agent selling, then they have value on the back end. They have value on the front end because they bought they found the deal, but they don't know how to do the deal. And I have all the people to do the deal and the labor and I have all the knowledge, right? And I can get the debt. Right. So if I'm doing all of these things, then I'm going to have, that person may end up being a 50% partner because they're bringing a lot more to the table than just money. But I don't want to partner with anybody at all that's going to have opinions, facts. They're going to want to choose different finishes and all of those things because that's not their job. That's my job. Right. If they want to do that, go do their own deal. Right. Or I would just be a limited partner, and then I have to trust that they're doing all the work the right way and they're going to put in the right finishes and all those things. So now I'm basically their partner, right? Because those decisions are what's going to sell the house, right? And they're running all the numbers. I'm doing all the math. I'm doing all the work. I'm the one who's paying the contractors. I'm the one who's trusted with all these things because I've been doing it. It's my job. It's what I do well, right? So it all depends on how you want to do it. But there's, in my opinion, Tamara and folks, there's nothing wrong with an equity partner. Pay them 25, 30%. You know what I mean? The difference is there's number one, they don't have a guarantee that they're going to make anything, and they don't have a guarantee when they lose money. If you lose money, you're both going to split it 50-50. You lose 10 grand, you're not going to lose all 200 grand. I mean, unless you bought the house way wrong or just the numbers weren't ever there, right? Or you stole it. But let's just say you put in 200 grand, the person puts in 200 grand, you'd expected to make 100 grand, they're going to make 25,000 in 6 months. That's a nice return on a $200,000 investment. So that's 50 grand on 200 grand. That's a 25% annual return. And they're going to go ahead and make this money. And all of a sudden you lose 10 grand. Not only do you not make 100, but you lose 10. Well, they're still going to get back 190. And then you give them 5, so they get back 195. They only lost 5 grand because as partners, you're going to split the losses. But you don't owe them an interest rate. When you close the table and you sell the home, you didn't promise to pay them back 200 grand plus interest. You promised to pay them a percentage of it. Now they'll probably never do a deal with you again, unless there was a reason you lost money on the deal, which happens, right? And then you're like, hey, I got this next deal. It's twice as good. I'm actually going to increase your percentage so I can make up a little bit for us not making the money on the last one. Let's do this deal and work this out and let me make this up to you. Make sense?
Yeah.
I like equity partners take more risk, so they get more money. Making 25% on a deal is far better, far more than making 10% interest or 12% interest. But 10, 12, 14% is phenomenal. It's a phenomenal return.
So let me just reiterate, so what you just said was basically let's say I'm going to be your equity partner, 25%. You control everything. I have no say, but I'm bringing the whole $300,000 to the job. And if we lose 30,000, if we lose half the money, $150,000, then we split the loss. Or is it the 30?
You can do it however you want. I offer 50% of the loss. My opinion is I'm not going to lose money. When I do, I should probably be paying for 50% because it was probably my fault. They didn't make any decisions. They didn't do the deal. They didn't pick the deal. They definitely didn't fix the deal. And it's my fault. So I'm going to pay 50% of the loss, right? But if they're 30% and you're 70% and you want to pay 70% of the loss, go ahead. It's up to you. Anything's negotiable, right?
Yeah, no, that's good. I would do.
But if I'm going to offer all this money, I mean, I give them the opportunity. I'm like, listen, if you want to have an opportunity to make 30% of 100 grand, you may make 30 grand in 6 months, right? That's a 60% annual return. You guys follow me on that? When you annualize 30 grand or on $100,000 deal, they put in 100 grand to flip a house, right? 40 grand down, 60 grand to finish it and carry it. And you're going to make 100, you're going to make, let's just say 100,000 on this deal. And they get 30,000 of it in 6 months. If you took their money and doubled it, they would make 60 grand a year on the same $100,000. It's not like they put in 200 grand. They put in 100 grand for 6 months and 100 grand for 6 months. So they made 60 grand on 100 grand in 1 year. That's a 60% annual return. You can't offer that. So if I'm giving you the opportunity to make 60% on your money, secured in second position on real estate, and I'm doing all the work, you're going to take 50% of any losses. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You can't get that. And that's an exaggerated amount. 60% is pretty good. You're not usually going to make 100 grand on a $100,000 investment. Usually it's going to be like 150 because you're going to need 50 grand down and 10%, 10 grand to close it, 10 grand to carry it, and about an $80,000 remodel to make 100 grand. But regardless, even if they make 50, 40% possibility annual return if they doubled it, right, in that short amount of time. That return's unheard of, and it's secure. So it's not like you're going in and putting 100 grand in at a retail price. You're going in at 100 grand. You know, they're putting in 150 grand on a house that has equity. So if you had to fire sell it tomorrow, if you bought the property right and you started fixing it and something goes wrong, the odds of them getting most of their money back when the house sells is pretty good, right? It's not like you're waiting for the house to appreciate over time, and God forbid you had to fire sell it then, you're going to take a loss. But when you buy a $200,000 house for 150 grand, you've already got 50 grand of equity. Then you put 50 grand into it and it's worth 300,000, and something goes wrong, the market stops, blah, 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 and you got to sell it for 250, you're still even. The guy or girl's going to get all their money back because it's covered in the equity. You bought the house at 60 cents, 70 cents on the dollar, if that makes sense. So the risk to them is still risky, and really all they're risking is the profit. When they go in as a lender, they're not risking profit. They're only risking the fact that they would have to foreclose or sue you, because they're guaranteed, no matter what happens, if you lose your ass, you still have to pay them. If you don't pay them or work it out with them and give them all their principal back and their interest in a timely manner, they can sue you for the difference of what they didn't get back at closing. Right? And or they can foreclose on the house if if you haven't sold the house yet. And then whatever they lose on the house, they can sue you for the difference, like, because you guaranteed it. So they have no risk of profit. The only thing they risk is realistically, on a good deal, when they become a limited partner, an equity partner, is they risk how much they're going to make, not typically how much they're going to lose.
Yeah, amazing. All right, I have one more question for you if no one else has questions.
Yeah, no questions.
All right, so someone brought me this deal. The numbers don't make sense for a fix and flip, but I was talking to someone else, and it's it needs work. What I did was I threw up an ad for like a handyman and said, hey, no mortgage, no problem, something like that. So basically what I offered was seller finance terms, but the agreement is they have to bring cash and put the down payment down, and they're responsible for fixing the house the way they want it. But I'm going to sell it to them on seller finance note. So it's giving them the option for home ownership, but the house needs work and they're going to be responsible for doing that. Did I explain that okay?
Yeah. So what's your question?
So I've never done that strategy. I'm just curious if is there any risk in that? Like, I'm not doing any of the work. I
think it's all risk. You literally have a partner. That person could die. That person could care less. That person can think that they're doing a good job on the work. If you own the house, like,
no, well, yeah,
you're not in any kind of type of control, except that you own the property. Like, you might as well have a general contractor as a partner. I mean, a handyman as a partner. Like, it's not a strategy. It's a way of getting the work done. And then, the strategy is selling the house on owner financing. That's your exit. Your acquisition is you're borrowing his money to close. Right? I think I don't think it's wrong, and I don't think it's creative for sure. But the more creative you get, the more moving parts you have, and the more work you have to do. Like, there's a lot of moving parts that you've got to control. Like, that's a hands-on business for you to run that type of business. Like, you have to control that individual, which is very difficult to do.
How though? Because essentially, what do you mean? Because essentially they're taking ownership. I'm just holding the note. Well, yeah.
So he's going to fix it up after you sell him the house on owner financing?
Yeah.
Then it's no different than selling an owner financing. I don't know what you're asking me. It needs work.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, if you buy the house with their money.
Who's their money? What do you mean by their money?
Financing, that means you're transferring title. Once people have title to the property, you become the lender. You would have to foreclose, but you could care less what they do to the building. So as a lender, you want to be additionally insured on the insurance policy, right? So if the house burns down or something like that, you want to make sure that they have homeowners insurance. You got to keep that in place for all major systems. That's what every bank does, right? Banks don't inspect your house, nothing like that. And you want to make sure that you're at an equitable position. Banks, except FHA, don't lend at 100%. They lend at 80 or 90%. Then they check people's credit, right? So what's a bank's recourse? A bank's recourse is credit. You don't pay me, I ruin your credit. You won't be buying a house ever again for 7 to 10 years, right? You don't pay me, I foreclose, you're out on the street, right? So there's an inherent risk factor to the homeowner. They take general care of their house, and it's a 30-year loan, so they plan to raise their family there, right? So there's a pride in ownership. They want to keep it up because they don't want it to go down in shambles because their kids are being grown there, right? So they're lending to family. Now, FHA lends 100%, or you can borrow the down payment and all these types of things, VA, because it's government-backed money. If it goes under, it's government-backed. They don't lose their money, their asset. They can bundle it up, sell it on the secondary market, and everybody's happy. But conventional loans lend really good loans to really good people who have really good credit and really good jobs because they're low risk people. You're going to be financing a very high risk person with no credit, possibly no job. The only ability to pay back is what? Fixing the house. I mean, I don't even know how he's going to pay you. How's he going to pay the mortgage?
Well, no, I'm not just giving it to anyone. There's a criteria to it, just like I'm doing with my lease option houses.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. So that's all. Then it's just it's not any different strategy. You're basically marketing for a particular buyer. You want a buyer who can fix up the house themselves because you don't want to pay any money to fix it up. So you're giving them a shitty product.
But to them, they're grateful because they couldn't.
Then there's no issue. It's the same exact thing. If you're going to buy it and then sell it on a lease option, sell it on financing, then they're going to own it. And they can fix it up at their leisure, at their time, the way they want, and you have no say in how it looks at the end of the day. So if you ever had to foreclose on it, the only risk is it might be in shambles by the time you get it because they never did anything.
Right.
And you can't make them. They own it. You can't go check up to see if they fixed the roof or put in a stove or any of those things. It's their prerogative.
So there's the risk.
Yep. The only way you could control that is if you're controlling the mortgage payment. The more he puts into it, the lower the payment goes every month, and you have some sort of plan to come in and, very much like an FHA construction loan, where someone buys an owner-occupied home, they get an FHA 283 or 203, and they're able to get draws to improve the house they bought. And the only way they get the draws is, they get inspections done by FHA, and they keep moving on like a regular kind of construction loan, but it's an FHA homeowners loan. They came out with it like 10 years ago or so. And then if you did that and you're like, listen, I'm going to reduce your mortgage payment every month, that you improve it by $5,000 or whatever you do, right? And you'd have to have some sort of built-in, it's a lot more work.
Oh. Okay. That's what I was missing. Just that small detail.
Once you're selling the house, you can't do anything. You can't go in there. There's no 48 hours notice. There's no nothing. You have the only thing you can do is by law, and whatever your contract says, your note is to foreclose. And you have to go, through that state's process, whatever it is. And if you don't have an acceleration clause, you got to wait the whole term of the 90 days late in the whole 9 yards, whatever that state. Some states, like I think Illinois, it's 11 months before you can foreclose. Texas, it's 18 days. Arizona, it's 90 days. But then you got to put, yeah, go ahead, Tim. You're muted. There you go.
Well, no, I got a different question for you once you're finished with
No, go ahead. We're done.
with this topic.
Wait,
Yep.
what we finish your thought though first. You said you think what?
No, I was just talking. I said, I think, I don't know what I thought. I was just talking about how you foreclose. You can't do anything with the house.
Oh, okay.
You have no, as a lender on the house, as the financing person on the house, you have no, you don't own it. You have no rights to it. All it is an asset that secures your investment. And you have to follow the state's laws in order to sell the asset to pay your investment back. That's all. You can't tell them ever to, if they burn their own house down, you better have insurance and be additionally insured so you get paid off. They can do whatever they want to the house. They can take an axe to it, cut holes in it, and have a campfire in the middle of it. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah. You give me PTSD thinking about one of my projects that I have with homeless people. They love the house, but question. I don't know. I don't know exactly if you know the answer to this, but there are right now. It's very hard or damn near impossible to do a Burr method without a significant amount of money down because of how high interest rates are. And so if you were to find a home and fix it up, and then refinance the money out, well, I mean, unless you find it for very, very, very cheap, it seems like I'm running into the average property, let's say $2,000 payment, but my rent's like $1,500. And so and I've got it. And then that's just gross. That's a gross income, or the gross top, so $500 loss just off of that. And Airbnb is really tight because it's a very tough industry at the moment. And I was wondering if you have looked into or know anybody that does these insurance claim midterm rentals or government style assisted living, or these ones where you have your clientele who are paying a lot more. For example, I've got one property in Georgia where my regular rent would be $1,300 to $1,500 a month. And it's a brand new home. It's got 3 beds and whatnot, and 3 beds, 2 baths, and then not the best area of Augusta. And right now we're able to rent it out in that area. Because there's Hurricane Helene and all the things. There are a lot of people who need rental, need places. Their houses need to be fixed up, and so insurance companies are paying out a lot of money. And so for me on my rental, I'm getting $3,500 a month, and they furnished it for the person. Now it was only for 5 months, 6 months for that one. And I've got something else coming behind it once they leave here in about 3 weeks. That it'll be more of a construction person. They need it for about a year or something like that, and they're also willing to pay about the same for that corporate thing. But do you know of anybody who I could talk to? Do you know of how? So the biggest question I'm trying to get to here is when it comes to finding those companies, those insurance claims, housing providers and things like that. Do you know anybody, first of all, who does that, pretty successful at it, or do you know of different ways that us as students, or whatever, can still get the higher income and make some of these properties and projects that we have, or make a Burr method work a lot better?
Yeah,
because
so
you get higher income.
100% on all of it. Number one is DSCR rates right now are in high 6s to low 7s with good credit, right? Even at 80% loan to value, most likely 75. Number one, if I was doing a Burr method today, I would concentrate on a duplex or a triplex because they will look at they'll look at the cap rate. You know, they'll look at the income approach versus the
Yeah.
versus
Rent
the
multiple, like a rent.
so you have multiple income and you can, and then when you buy something, you don't necessarily have to buy it at a huge discount, you know, 10 or 20%, which is not a, you know, not normally a flip price, but you can force appreciation through improving the property, painting it, fixing it up, making it look more desirable, putting in parking, whatever it is. Then you can raise the rent as long as it's not in a C area or a D area. You know, you're in a C plus or B minus or B, then you got people that are going to come in, they're going to pay a little bit more rent for a nicer place, right? Add a bathroom, or, you know, if you don't add a bathroom, at least put in a new kitchen, that sort of thing. So you can force the appreciation of the rent, which is going to increase the income approach. And then you can get a nice DSCR as loan is. The other thing is have good credit. If you got 720, 740 credit, you can get a much better DSCR loan to value. They will give you a higher loan to value with a higher credit score, right? Versus a lower credit score. And it's not about experience. So that's how you can do a BRRRR method in today's market. Secondly, I love midterm rentals. Number one is I would put everything you have on Zillow, and I would increase the price on Zillow because that's where all the insurance companies find me, is they find me on Zillow. So my Zillow price is typically higher than my normal price where I would do it. Like if I'm doing apartments.com, typically I don't even have to put my stuff up for rent because it rents so fast. But I put some of my nicer stuff on Zillow, and they come in there and they will pay the full price. The cool thing about midterm rents and insurance companies is you can get like $1,000 non-refundable deposit. You can get a pet rent. You can ask for anything. You can pay fee. You can charge fees. And most of the time, if it's in a line, and I just ask the agents. So number two is I would Google all the insurance agents, right? Then I would email you. Typically, if you did this one in Atlanta, I would email that person and say, listen, I've got other properties in other states. Let me know if you're interested, or if you know of any other insurance colleagues with other companies that do these, that are looking for these midterm rentals. They're going to refer their friends to you because they work with them, the other companies, right? And then if you don't have any rentals to rent, put a fake rental on Zillow, put it up at, you know, look at all the prices around the house, put some pictures of a house. And then when they call you and they're like, hey, would you consider renting it midterm as an insurance? It could be for 30 days, but you know, we got to keep going and we'll drop these contracts. They do the leases for you most of the time. It's really nice. I love these insurance companies. I work with about a dozen of them, and I always email them when I'm coming up on rents. I'm like, hey, by the way, I'm going to have this coming available. A lot of times it doesn't work out because it's all timing for them, and they got, you know, the owner has to go and see the house once they agree and everything works and the insurance company okays it. Then the owner has to go see the house to make sure they even want to live there, because it's ultimately their choice. And you could put a fake rental up there and start get, you know, you can even advertise it as midterm rental, looking for insurance claims. We got you covered. You know what I mean? And then they search it all day long because they got to have backup rents for their places, because the only way they get paid is if they place a tenant in someone's house. They're not getting paid salary. So and then there's a lot of people that go on Zillow that actually don't even work for the insurance company. They broker to the insurance company and they'll call you. So Zillow's my number one lead source for midterm rental through insurance companies.
Yeah. So Zillow, and then you said that also are you calling? Because I know I can go and call different insurance companies too, but it's mainly the insurance companies that so you want to focus on to try to get those higher rents.
Yeah, it's a type of company that works with insurance companies that they have a name for the company. It's not the insurance company themselves. The insurance goes through a broker, and the broker is the company you're looking for. And
Right.
I emailed all my people and asked them if they knew any referrals, because it's all through email most of the time. They'll call you and text you, but when you're doing the contract and everything and you're sending them the information, it's through email. You got their email, or I'll just ask them for their email. I'm like, hey, let me send you some other properties I have in the future. And a lot of times it's through that. Travel nurses is different, Eric. It's definitely, you can advertise on Furnish Finder. Furnish Finder is expensive. I don't like it. The leads are so strict. Everybody wants to pay with credit card deposit. Everybody wants, you know what I mean? You got to, in my opinion, if I do travel nurses in short term, 30, 60, 90-day people, which I don't do very often, I would get a manager who does it really well and really markets and sells and gets and fills every room, because you can rent out per room on Furnish Finder and a couple other nursing sites. And it's a lot of work. I just don't do it. And you're right, Airbnb, super tight. I'm not loving Airbnb anymore. In fact, I started advertising some of my Airbnbs long term with I've raised the price up, and I'm kind of playing the system to see what happens. And roughly, you're still getting a little lower long term than you would in Airbnb, but it's no long. I'm not getting 2.5 times rent anymore on Airbnb versus long term, especially when I'm renting it partially or fully furnished. Um, I'm getting just almost 1 to 1, but the difference comes out is I don't have to turn it over every time. I don't have a cleaning lady anymore. I don't have the utilities anymore. And not that that's making up for the whole difference I'd make on Airbnb, but once I do the lease once, I only have to do it once a year. So it's changing with Airbnb. Unless you really, in my opinion, Airbnbs are specific to destinations, and you've got to have a unique property. Like my 5 bedroom's pretty good for Airbnb because very few properties allow 10 to 14 people. Yeah, co-living nowadays, bro, it's a whole new strategy. Jumanji, Jamil, he's got it going on. Pace Morby, these guys got that locked in. This co-living experience. I totally agree. I don't know much about it. In fact, I couldn't even answer a question on co-living today because I don't do it. I haven't researched it. I haven't had the need for it. But it's solid rents. You're renting per room. It could be 800 a room. I think if you have a place at a university and you're renting out the room, 100%. You can do it month to month, week to week, day to day, short term, and you could crush it. A day to day rate is like a motel, man, and you run it right out of your house.
So how about have you seen or know about like the government or like state housing for like assisted living people where where there's like the assisted living homes or something like that that have special needs people or whatnot, and they take care of it. All you're doing is just providing, and then these state or and the state is basically paying you, or at least yeah, the state's paying you, and then they have their own like
All of it's
live
true.
in.
Arizona, if you have a special needs handicapped individual, you get up to $8,500 a month. They pay room and board. So it's not just room, it's board, feeding them the whole 9 yards. There is licensing involved. I would find a mentor who does it. When you got the sober living, it's all government funded stuff, and you got to figure out how to do it and have the right people, and you got to have a license, and then you got to have someone in there that's generally licensed to care for those individuals. You can't just like if you live in your own home, you can do it, and you can have special needs in your house. There's less regulation in your own home, but if you have a home for it, you especially like an assisted living, you've got to have a license within a certain quarter-mile radius. You can't be another house that does it that's already licensed. So you got to pick a house that is not doesn't have another nearby home. And that doesn't matter the neighborhood. You can do it in any neighborhood, but it's up to a certain amount in every state. It's up to a certain amount of individuals before you have to have a 24-hour nurse or a 24-hour on-call doctor. So you can't in Arizona, you can't go over 10 beds. And then without a 24-hour doctor, and now it's getting, but then you're also putting in sprinkler systems. You're also putting in certain care things that have to go in there. So it all depends. So I would find someone who's doing it. If you're going to do the special needs, the government, the sober living. I have one of my students was trying to do sober living, and they worked at it for a couple of years, and it never took off. They didn't know how to do it, and I don't know why, and I don't know what needed to be done. But I would like to go to somebody who's done it before and then model them. That would what I would do. But again, that's a niche. Like it's not like when we fix and flip a house, and then all of a sudden we do a lease option or we do a wholesale deal. That's all in line with each other. But when you and I are renting long term, and then we try to get into midterm, and all of a sudden we try an Airbnb, sort of in line with each other. Airbnb, you got to furnish the whole place. You got to, you got to learn Airbnb, right? Airbnb kind of teaches it yourself, and you're like, well, screw it. I'm just going to fly by the seat of my pants. This is a whole nother level. Like this is not a level up necessarily, but a level parallel. It's a whole different animal. So when we're going in this, you're going to need time, energy, and effort and education. This is a specialty thing. The government's not just paying any Yahoo $8,500 a month for 5 people to go in their house and live there and their special needs, and then they're falling down, killing each other. You know what I mean? Like there's a reason they're willing to pay $8,500 a month for one person on a government grant, because those people need to be taken care of. They need to be safe and secure. And so there's licensing, regulation, all kinds of things that I imagine. Now I'm sure there's ways around the system. And I'm sure that, you know, just like when people have 6 kids and then they get the government assistance and they basically live like kings or queens because they got 6, 7 kids in their house. But that's a whole different, you know, they get around the system. They learn the system. They've been in the system their whole life probably, and they learned how to do it since they were 16. Um, but for you and I, you know, we want to run a respectable business. It's not the same as Airbnb mid long-term rental. It's a different animal in my opinion. So I've never really gotten into it. Is it worth the money? 100%.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. So that's kind of a different thing, but I'm really intrigued in to expand more into that insurance claim area. That's easy. All you're doing is here's the property, and then you sign the lease, and then they take care of it. Easy money every month. They take care of the property, all that fun stuff. At least they should be.
I did a high-end rental, dude. I did one. They paid $5,000 non-refundable deposit. They're like, how much? I'm like, well, how much? She's like, well, what's the deposit? I'm like, I don't know. Like it's, you know, the rent's 7 grand. Let's do 4 grand. She goes, okay, how much do you want for a non-refundable part? I'm like, well, they're gonna be there a year, like 5 grand. They're like, oh, that's okay. We could probably get that done. How much for a pet fee? I'm like, 500 a pet. Okay, non-refundable. Yep. Okay. You know what I mean? I was like, they're like, do you want an application fee? I'm like, nope, no, we're good. You know what I mean? They're like, yeah, I could probably get this. Like they coach you because
Oh,
they've been doing it. They know. Like I just ask them, like, yeah, you know, what do you want to do? What's normal? What can we get away with? And they kind of fill you in.
right.
And sometimes they'll be like, listen, this person has to pay their own deposit, not the non-refundable part, but they have to pay the refundable part. And they don't have that kind of money because they're in a situation where they're moving a thing. I'm like, so what do you think? They're like, how about 2 grand? I'm like, oh yeah, that's no problem. So then they come up with the 2 grand. The insurance doesn't pay that, but they pay the non-refundable, or they pay the fees, or they pay the pet fees. So it all depends on the person and the insurance company and their policy with them, right? Because people aren't with a zero, you know, with a house that costs $1,000 a month, they're not getting a rent in a $7,500 house. But when I have a house in Arcadia and they own a $4 million house and their house is flooded, they're going to not go into a $2,000 a month house. They're going to go into an $8,000 a month house. And the insurance,
Right.
no, that's what they're looking. They're looking for like properties, and they're looking for similar areas. Yep.
All right. Yeah. Thank you.
Eric typed something in the chat, Tim, with a alsolutions.com. I don't know what that is, but yeah.
Yep. Yep. I got a copy it down.
Cool.
Thanks, Eric.
Awesome. Well, that made it crystal clear. And thank you, Tim and Tamara and everyone else for adding to the call.
Yep.
Sometimes we just don't know what questions to ask. And so just being able to listen to other people get their clarity helps us become more clear. And, you know, your commitment, folks, to showing up every day, sharing this message, helping others to see a better life by taking more responsibility and getting educated, it's going to change the game. So we got time for one more question. Go ahead, Eric.
Hey, kind of going back to Tamara's question, but I didn't know if you had experience with this deal. Let's say I own the house. I bought the house, but I did bring a general contractor in. Have you had good experience with giving him partnership or ownership in the sale of the property once we sell, and them doing it so that they can hold themselves accountable using their own credit lines that they have with Home Depot, whatever credit line to the deal?
I've not had good experience with it. Typically, I've found that it doesn't save me any money. They First of all, they have to work for free for 6 months or whatever long it takes, right? So nobody works for free, right? They're going to get paid at the end, but they also got to get paid during the middle and feed their family. So they're either working other jobs that's going to bring them in money. You know, you and I, we go and fix a house and we got to wait for, you know, we try to pay ourselves up front a little bit if we can. And then we're waiting until the house sells, right? Because we're the investor and we're taking that risk. They are not on the same page. They're not investors. They're labor workers. They trade their time for dollars. So it's hard for me to judge what a normal price is and what a discounted wholesale price would be from a contractor. Now, yeah, they can use their lines of credit and stuff, but I just have never been able to trust that it's true, right? That whatever they're charging me is cost. And it hasn't worked. I've only done it twice. to try to split profits with the contractor, if that's what you're getting at. And I just assume pay them. I'm in far more control. I can control their, and that's the other thing. You can't control their time. Now they're a partner and they get to make decisions on what they fix and don't fix. I just, and if I answered your question, if I understood your question right, I'm not saying it can't work. I'm saying it's something that, if you're good at it and you spend time and maybe you ask a bunch of questions up front. I didn't. I just assumed I could control it and, that they would be on the same page as me. But they're typically not. They've never done it this way before either. So they're just doing what they think is the best thing to do and what's best for them. So I would say no. Unless you go in as a partnership, with not with an attorney, but with a mindset of an attorney where you're like, okay, what if this comes up? What if this comes up? I want you to show me an example of a house you did that's similar to our house and show me the numbers and then show me what the numbers are going to be on my house. So if this house would normally cost 30 grand, are you going to do it for 10 grand? So now we not only make 20 grand, but you're saving me 20 grand and we split it, right? Because otherwise, just make your 20 grand and pay the guy 10 grand and you're good. You would actually have a better chance at making 30 grand than making 50 grand if he saves you 20 grand. You know what I mean? Like, so you'd have to go into it with all of the cards on the table before you start. And how would that person know what cards to put on the table because they hadn't done it before? They're actually relying on you because you're the one making the offer to them to be their partner and do it at wholesale. Well, what is wholesale on a laborer? You know what I mean? They hire a guy that's $4 a square foot for tile and he's going to do it for $2. No, you still got to pay the guy $4 a square foot for tile. He's just not marking it up 50 cents. But how do you know that? How do you know the guy's not taking 50 cents off his $4 a square foot? He's still charging $4 a foot and making 50 cents a foot. I just don't see it. I don't see it working that way unless they are literally on a LLC partnership with you and they know that the two of you can both make way more money going with a full-blown contractor partner. Now, it looks like there's a guy in Renatus here in Arizona that does it, Kevin Close. He's got money partners. He's a GC, used to be a builder, and they're building houses at cost and splitting profit. I don't know. I've seen some of their margins. I think he's taken, he's probably making more money with less headaches, trying to do a 20-20 markup and all 20-30. Now contractors are marking up 30%. It's crazy. They're kicking back money to everybody. I don't know. I would say no. That's my opinion. What do you think? Anybody else?
Thank you. You answered my question. Thank you.
Excellent. Yep. I know it's not the answer. I'd like to be able to yeah, it's a great idea. I'm not saying it's not, Eric. I'm not saying it can't work. My experience is it doesn't work. And anytime we give someone else a partnership, we just give more. It's kind of like buying Renatus. When someone buys Renatus from us and they're like, oh, this guy next to me wants to partner, wants to get it. You know what I mean? Like, unless we're in business with our spouse, our son or daughter, our grandfather, our father, our brother or sister, our partner, me and Michael were partners in another business before and we find Renatus and we're looking to do the same things. It doesn't work. Partnerships are not set up that way. And so the second person in Renatus has no control. All they have is
I got my drop off today for
education. They have access to the education to be on their own.
I don't know exactly what
They're
to
a
do,
learning
but
partner.
it's like insurance claim.
First primary. That
Yeah.
person is can do the Renatus, ICM. They can control the situation. They're the primary. They're recognized in the system. The other person is just a learning partner. So it's kind of the same thing. Whenever we partner with somebody, it makes more work for us unless they know exactly what to do. So, but it can still work, Eric. You know what I mean? Especially if you spend some time up front drawing it out and spelling it out. And I know we're taking time. For example, in this lawsuit I'm doing, if in fact I ever work with this GC just to make up part of the compensation that he's going to have to compensate me for, if I ever did it, my attorney at his expense, not my attorney's expense, but at the GC's expense. We'll draw up a timeline. We'll draw up a consequence. We'll draw up a discounted wholesale price for fixing, a discounted wholesale price for materials. We will have an exact, strict regimen that in any case where nothing is met along these lines of this construction, they will be in default and will automatically default back to full compensation of the lawsuit, right? That's the only way I will ever work with a partner in this regard again, right? Is if you have some sort of partnership drawn up. That's why real companies, right? Not our BS LLCs that we make together with somebody else and we draw up some operating agreement as fast as we can to be in compliance. You have an attorney spend 5 G's or more drawing up an operating agreement that has outs for everybody, that has ins for everybody, that has consequences for everybody, that has, margin calls for everybody and all these things. And and you have board meetings, and everybody's working towards a common goal and they start it from the beginning. Or you have all the LPs. You make this guy an LP, he's just he's going to get 10% of the profit if he does it at wholesale. So if he skims off the top, you're not losing 50% of the deal, right? These LPs go in, they put in a little money with a chance of making a lot more than just a lender, but they have no say. Yep. I love these. I love it. You guys are doing, the girls, this is just a great call.
Absolutely. Yep. This is the clarity that we needed. Okay, I think it's a great place to stop.
Yep.
One thing I do want to remind everyone is that these are some of the benefits of being in the program, beyond just the video vault and the coaching you get and the workbooks and the audios and everything that comes with the Renatus package. It's these extra things that we add on that really help you use the product. So when you're out there selling it, remember, we got the education and the community, and some people want one more than the other. So be sure that you're presenting both as a solution to their to getting what they want out of life, what they want out of their business and out of their time while they're working. So
I'm going to challenge y'all, and we'll talk a little bit about it next week too, is along those lines with selling the education. This is an ICM call, but obviously with real estate background. My challenge would be that we sell with less emotion. That we sell with integrity, but we sell with less emotion, right? That very much like doing a deal, and this is the perfect call for this. When we're raising capital, we are not borrowing money because when we ask our parents or our friends or our family for money, we typically need it. We're in debt, we're in need of money, and we're looking for we're looking for a handout, right? When we borrow money, when we are giving people an opportunity, we are in control. We are offering something they can't get on their own. If they pass on it, so be it. Just like in Renatus. It sucks to be them, right? It's their loss, right? That they don't come in and do this deal with you because your integrity, your deal is good. You've done your numbers and you spent 25 grand and hours, hundreds of hours on education and time in a community that's teaching you and mentoring you, right? So the same thing with Renatus. When we make the opportunity available, I don't mean to sell with integrity or lie or exaggerate, but it is the less emotion and the more posture that you have in the sale and in the opportunity, the better. And you know what I mean? Instead of us, we want something for someone so bad, yet realistically, we are already giving them far more than anybody else in the world right now, right? But we are so worried about what they're saying and what their response is going to be and getting them to say yes, that we forget, we tend to think that that how they feel about the product is more important than the product itself, when really the offer is so powerful versus that we should be sometimes like Michael does in their face. Like, are you crazy? Like, you turn this opportunity down and you're gonna, you're gonna look back one day and just feel like, you got punched in the face, if that makes sense. So we'll talk a little more deep about it, but yeah, Doug, you're right. Just like getting married. Yep. Yeah, marriage is something you grow into. It's something that you work for. You come in with intentions. You get to know the person for a while. You have a relationship. You date, you court, you talk about goals and plans, family plans. One person wants to have a family, the other doesn't. Like things align up, and then you decide to spend the rest of your life with them, right? You don't meet them the first day unless you're, from Dubai. Um, right? But and then it doesn't matter. You're a rich king or prince or whatever. Marriage is arranged, and it is what it is. But in real, without joking, you're exactly right. There is a big marriage, and it's something that you plan on going into for not 30 or 60 days. When you're only going in for 30, 60, 90 days a year partnership, you treat it like that. But when you go into when you go into a marriage, it's lifetime. And so, there's going to be problems and stuff, but it doesn't end in divorce. It ends in a compromise and an argument, and it comes back together, and then you apologize, and then you work through it, and then you learn from it, and you keep moving on. And most partnerships are not that way because we didn't start in that way. Me and Tim met. We're like, yeah, let's buy Renatus together, and all of a sudden, you know what I mean? We're the other person's not paying their shares. Yeah. Yeah, 30, 60 days is exactly. It's a one night stand. Yep. Even a one fix and flip. It's a one night stand. And there's always somebody heartbroken at the end of that one night stand, typically. All right.
I appreciate you guys. Remember to keep promoting the E3 Summit. We're 59, 56, 57, somewhere around there days away. And it's going to be a life-changing event for those who let it be life-changing. Others will have some entertainment and others will miss it. So you get to decide where you fit in on that equation. Thanks for today's call, Bill. Appreciate you. Everyone else participating, and we will see you tomorrow for another episode. Have a great day, everyone. Bye for now.
Thanks, everybody.